Topping today's news, 275 migrants intercepted by the U.S. Coast Guard, now in Bahamian custody. The immigration minister explains his actions in regards to illegal Chinese workers, new programs introduced at the prison to help reduce recidivism, and Jamaica and the United States relations possibly strained over a partner of same-sex diplomat. Good evening, I'm Jcn Saunders. This is your JCN Evening News. It is a pleasure to have you join us. The illegal migration of young children across dangerous waters is still a concerning problem for the Royal Bahamas Defense Force and the Minister of Immigration, Keith Bell. Minister Bell says on Monday night, the Royal Bahamas Defense Force officers received 275 irregular migrants intercepted by the U.S. Coast Guard on Saturday, July 15th near the Key South Bank area.
Of note and concern is that there are a number of children, again, involved in this operation. There were some 194 males, 60 females, 12 female children, and 9 female children on board this vessel, all of whom are now in custody here at our safe house and at the detention center. Efforts are now being made to communicate with the Haitian government through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to ensure that these persons are treated humanely and they are repatriated to their hometown as quickly as possible.
That was Minister of Immigration and Labor, Keith Bell. Police here in the capital investigating another armed robbery and sexual assault and seeking the public's assistance in apprehending the male suspect believed to be responsible. Police say around 9:54 a.m. while outside the home of a friend in the area of Cowpen Road, the victim was approached by an unknown male who allegedly produced a firearm, robbed her of an undisclosed amount of cash, and sexually assaulted her. The suspect then gained entry into the home and subsequently robbed a male resident of an undisclosed amount of cash and his cell phone. The suspect fled the area in an unknown direction. This incident comes less than a week after a 50-year-old man burglarized a home in the Centerville area and sexually assaulted an 82-year-old woman on July 11th. The suspect in that incident was arrested on the same day. According to the Minister of National Security, rapes are up in the country this year when compared to the same period for 2022. Again, police are aggressively investigating this latest incident. If you have any information in relation to this incident or any other criminal matter, contact the police at 911, 919, or anonymously at 328-TIPS. That's 328-8477. Opposition leader Michael Pintard brought up allegations against Minister of Labor and Immigration Keith Bell on Monday, accusing him of overruling senior immigration officials on January 17th to force the release of as many as 100 Chinese nationals working illegally at the British colonial Hilton. Mr. Pintard, while citing his immigration sources, says when officers showed up at the Hilton and loaded buses with Chinese nationals, a senior official at the hotel contacted Deputy Prime Minister Chester Cooper, who is the Minister of Tourism, following a call from the Minister Keith Bell. The Chinese nationals were released from the bus to return to the worksite. Before the weekly cabinet meeting on Tuesday, that was today, Minister Bell responded to these claims by the opposition. He admitted irregularities were found with the Chinese nationals, but other factors were also at play.
Given the construction processes, varying workers are required for elements of the project. As specialized workers complete their tasks, they leave the country and new specialists re-enter. In January of this year, the Department of Immigration, as part of its ongoing efforts to ensure compliance with our immigration laws, discovered a number of irregularities with the status of workers at the British colonial Hilton construction site. Whilst the irregularities required immediate action, it was determined that given all of the circumstances, taking the persons at the detention center was unnecessary. It is important to note that the employer, as with almost every other major hotel redevelopment, has a heads of agreement with the government of the Bahamas to permit the temporary importation of foreign construction workers. Secondly, the irregularities found at the site could and were expeditiously cured by the employer. And thirdly, The completion of the renovation works at the British colonial property will address and add critically needed hotel rooms on the Providence and create additional employment and opportunities for Bahamians.
Minister Bell declined to respond to questions from the media and declined to clarify what he meant by irregularities. Meanwhile, Mr. Pintard on Monday claimed that the public confidence has been shaken and serious questions have been raised in relation to Minister Bell's work as immigration minister. He calls for a select committee to conduct a thorough review of the immigration system. According to Minister of Labor Keith Bell, Atlantis received the report from the Department of Labor last week after their investigation into the comments made by the resort's president in regards to the Royal Caribbean International proposed beach club on the western end of Paradise Island. Minister Bell says the resort may choose whether they wish to publicly speak on the matter or not. The Department of Labor launched an investigation into a number of complaints from Atlantis workers who claim they felt pressured by the top brass at Atlantis, to stand against the RCI proposed $100 million beach project.
The matter has been concluded by the Department of Labor. A report is being generated. The report is being shared with the Atlantis executives. And so I'm not able to comment any further on it, but it has been shared with Atlantis.
Atlantis President and Managing Director Aubrey Oswald has urged Atlantis workers to take a stance on the $100 million project, which has already received much pushback since it was announced, the main reasons being environmental concerns. In May, Atlantis denied the allegations that it pressured its workers to oppose Royal Caribbean International's proposed project. The promotional exercise for 93 finance and accounting officers is nearing completion. A statement on Monday evening from the Ministry of Public Service notes that 84% of the submitted promotions requests have been processed and completed, with 78 official promotion letters sent out to the relevant ministries. The announcement comes just 2 weeks after the finance and accounting officers staged a protest outside the office of the Prime Minister, along with the Bahamas Public Service Union, the BPSU, expressing their frustration over the stalled promotions. Today, State Minister for the Public Service, Pierre Glover Roll, told reporters that there are still 15 outstanding requests.
Some still require documents. Some do not qualify based on the policy, and some have adverse reports on file. So there's various reasons why persons wouldn't qualify. We want to make note that promotions are an entitlement, but you still have to qualify. So we are almost done. While they have a right, the members have a right to protest. This was something, the finance and accounting officers' promotions was something that was already in train, and we're about to be completed. Of course, it is happening simultaneously with other promotions across the service for every government ministry, in addition to us holding a multi-year service-wide promotional exercise that's also in train. So there's a number of moving parts, but we're happy to say that the finance officers and accounting officers' promotions are near to completion.
As for when the promotional exercise is expected to be completed in its entirety, the State Minister says this.
I always say that the Ministry of Public Service works on recommendations. The ministry has to send us recommendations of promotions. We have to process those promotions or those files. The files have to be ready to be processed. In a number of instances, we have to go back to the ministries and request documents, request ACRs, which are performance appraisals. So it's a process that has been ongoing. It is an analog process for the 23,000 public servants in the nation. There are 23,000 paper files that we have to find, locate, process, and then move on to the next level.
As for the protest staged by the finance and accounting officers who are members of the Bahamas Public Service Union, the State Minister says they are within their rights to do so.
The Ministry of Public Service has open lines of communication. Every union leader in this nation has access to me as the Minister of State, to Minister Mitchell as the Minister, to the Permanent Secretary who's present, capable, competent, to all of the teams at the ministry. In fact, the President of the Public Service Union was just a few days before the protest, visited our Public Service Commission, so I would think that he was well aware of where the process was.
Minister Glover Rose says considerable progress has been made by the Davis administration after less than 2 years in office. She says the government is committed to ensuring that public servants get what is due to them. And finally, in this segment, the government has plans for a new parole act that is in the pipeline. Inmates at the Bahamas Department of Corrections, BDOCS, will soon have an opportunity of an early conditional release. This coming from Acting Commissioner of Corrections, Don Clare.
Now, the parole will once it come on stream, hopefully I'm understanding that sometime this year, the bill will be presented to Parliament. But before that happens, we were mandated to hold 4 town hall meetings, which we're going to start on Wednesday at 7 o'clock at Doris Johnson School. And then on the 13th and the 14th of September, we're going to have a symposium where the Canadians, the Americans, the Europeans, and the Latin Americans will come here and present on parole and inmate industries. Now, what's going to happen is that we're going to have a parole board. And the parole board will pretty much control who gets parole and what the conditions are. Also, too, once you come to prison if the judge gives you 7 years, you will get 7 years. So it will be the parole board who will determine the programs you go into and the conditions in terms of you being released from here.
A.C. Clare explains the efforts of the parole board that will decide who will be granted parole, different from that of the current prerogative of Mercy Board, which is responsible for granting some measures of compassion to individuals who have been convicted of criminal offenses and have demonstrated through rehabilitation programs the ability to be reintegrated into society.
The prerogative of Mercy, they can put you on the scheme. They can give you early release. But again, the conditions is the key. No one will be released from this facility without conditions. You see, so because it is the conditions that will pretty much keep you in line as to your remaining time left on your sentence. For example, if a guy is incarcerated for drugs and the parole board says that you must go to drug counseling for the next 3 years, you have to do it. Because if you miss one session, what happens? You're back in here for 3 years. You see, so that's the condition. That's the difference between us and the Program of Mercy and the Parole Board.
That is not the only change coming. The correctional facility, beginning next month, inmates will be afforded the opportunity to spend the day with their children.
When we traveled to Cuba a few years ago, the Cuban government has a rehabilitative program called Grow Your Child. This program allows for incarcerated men especially and females to have their kids come into the prison to spend the day with them. And during that day, they attend classes with their loved ones. And this program lasts for about 6 months. So this is a program that we tried to start here many years ago, from 2015, but it never materialized. So come next month, we're gonna have a phased approach. We're gonna start with female prison, then we're gonna move to medium, then the remand center, and then maximum security prison. All incarcerated men, especially and females who are here, once they give us the name of their kids will come here and spend the day with them. And the primary purpose of this is to break that cycle. There are too many fathers and sons incarcerated here at these facilities. So we are trying to break that curse.
That was Acting Commissioner of Corrections, Don Clare. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back after these commercials.